Thank you very much for being here. This is the third annual lecture in memory of our mother, Alei Shalom Pereletka Bas Yitzchak. We are looking forward to hearing words from Rabbi Noson Segal. But first I've asked Rabbi Rabibo to say a few words. Rabbi Rabibo, please. Who's calling? Lower the volume. Hi, Rabbi.
In keeping with the Pasha, it says, Atem nitzavim hayom, you're standing here today to join. Et asher yeshno po imanu hayom, those who are here in this world. Ve'et asher enenu po imanu, as well to do honor and to the memory for those who no longer are with us. Rabbi Bechaya says it's a chok, it's a yesod, a fundamental, lechayev et habanim b'shvuatam shel ha'avot, to make sure that the children feel the responsibility to carry on and feel bound by the covenant of the fathers. We're here, as David said, the third annual occasion to honor Pearl, Yehi Zichron Baruch, Yivon Neshama, go to Gan Eden, be in Gan Eden. A wonderful way to honor those who are no longer with us, loved ones. Something to be duplicated by many of us. And so in order to give the time to our guest speaker, it's a pleasure to introduce Harav.
Sorry. You can call me David, Rabbi.
All of us remember Pearl from Ota Yotze Hamidbar, from the time when this community was still a desert in every sense of the word, from way back, from those days. It is an honor to participate in this Haskara. Yehi Zichron Baruch. David.
Before we start, I thought it would be appropriate, with all that's going on in the world, in Florida and in Texas, to say two kapitulach of Tehillim. I've asked Rabbi Isaacs to lead us in Kuf Chaf Aleph 121, and Rabbi Shoshan will lead us in Kuf Lamed 130. They're the familiar ones. You may not need a sitter for those who do. Psalm 121 can be found on page 1070 of the Art Scroll Sidurim. 1071. Rabbi Isaac? Yeah.
Shir Lamalos, Esoinai El Hehorim, Me'ayin Yavo Yazri. Ezri Me'im Adoinoi, Oisei Shomayim Voreh. Yitain Lamoy Draglecha, Al Yonum Shoymerecha. Nei lo yanum v'lo yishan, Shomer Yisrael. Adonai shemerecha, Adonai tzilecha, al yad yeminecha. וימום השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמרך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאצאך ובואך מהטוב ועד עולם.
Page 1072. Shir Hama'alos Mimamakim Kerosicha Adonai Shema V'Koli Tienos Necha Kashuvos L'Kol Tachanuna Im Avonos Tishmor Yo Adonai Miyamo Hasadicha leman tivorei Visi Adonai ki v'so nafshi v'lidvoro cholti Nafshi Adonai mishomirim laboker shomirim laboker Yisrael el Adonai Kim Adonai HaChesed v'harbe imo fidu Vehu yiftes Yisrael mikol avonoso
Thank you, Rabbi Isaacs and Rabbi Shoshan. Welcome everybody to the third annual memorial lecture in memory of our mother, Peroletka Bas Reb Yitzchak. It's hard to believe that it's been 3 years already, and this is our third time honoring our mother's memory with some Divrei Torah, some Divrei Chizuk. Before Yomim Narayim, there's no more appropriate way to honor the memory of our mother Pearl than with a evening of some Torah. Before we start, I would just like to thank a few people. I advertise and promote this event quite a bit, almost beyond quite a bit, but not alone. I have lots of help with that, and it's much appreciated. First and foremost, to Rabbi Rabibo for opening up his home to us once again. I can't imagine this event for our mother being any place else than right here in what we have called home for a shul for over 50 years. So thank you, Rabbi Rabibo. I'd like to also thank Rabbi Isaacs and Rabbi Torsky for all their help, for all the physical help, for the emails and everything that they've done. I'd like to thank Rabbi Weiner from the Phoenix Hebrew Academy, Rabbi Goldberg from Or HaTorah Congregation, Eliyahu Ikovic from the Phoenix Mikvah, Rabbi Gansky from the Phoenix Community Kollel, Rabbi Getz from Yeshiva High School of Arizona, Rabbi Shoshan from Ahavas Torah, Rabbi Zalman Levertov from Chabad of Arizona, Rabbi Brumer from Jack and McCord, Rabbi Green from Shomrei Emunim, Rabbi Landesman from Sha'arim Torah High School, and Rabbi Field from the Torah Day School of Phoenix. I thank you all for your help in promoting the Rovam Hadras Melech, people from all walks of our community gathering for the sake of Torah tonight. It's a big bracha to our family, and it gives us tremendous chizuk, so thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Julia Amasolino for her help in preparing of the food and setting up the food. She's always a tremendous help. And I'd also like to thank Aaron and Larry Zier, primarily Aaron Zier, who has a audio-visual business called Aaron Zier Productions. He offered tonight to set up cameras and audio so that everyone can hear, for people to see who are not able to join us in person. We are streaming live. Everybody wave. We are streaming live, and it will be recorded and posted on YouTube. So I thank Aaron Zier very much for his spreading this Torah that we are about to share nationwide, worldwide, maybe one day in outer space. I'd also like to thank my father, Avi Mori Halevi, without whose help for everything. I know I can speak for my 4 sisters that we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, Dad. I'd like to thank my 4 sisters and their husbands and their families, Debbie and Rabbi Harris Cooperman, Lee and Steve Weinstein, Sharon and Michael Feldstein, thank you for the faces, Rena and Bumi Pinter. Rena and Bumi's daughter Sarah's here tonight from Houston. I don't know if she came to see family or to let the drying out fall into the hands of her husband, but thank you for being here. Last but not least, I would like to thank my wife Lori, who, without her, I would not be here, not be able to do any of this. She was with me along every step of the way in all capacities. Thank you. One community service announcement, if I may indulge. I have a dear friend who's in desperate need of a kidney. We have people here right now in the shul who have donated a kidney to a person they knew just a little bit. This person is a frum Jew, has a large family, children and grandchildren. He's on dialysis now 4 or 5 times a week. It's becoming a tircha, and he's in desperate need of a kidney. If you have any interest at all in participating or helping, or you know someone who might, please see me tonight or tomorrow or by email or by text. It would be a tremendous mitzvah and greatly appreciated. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce my cousin. Wait 1 second. I asked my sisters about 2 months ago, before all the emails and the Facebooks and everything started, and I said, do we want to carry on the tradition of having a lecture for Mom, Alei Shalom, before the Yartzeit? I said, if we do it this year, it will be 3 in a row, it will be a chazaka, and then we're going to do it on an annual basis. And all of my sisters and their families agreed that it's a beautiful tribute to our mother, and that we should continue. The second question then popped up. Who should we get to speak? The first year we had Rabbi Muskin from Los Angeles. Last year was Rabbi Silber. They were both very big hits, very well received. And it was suggested by one of my sisters, Sharon, and her husband, Michael, that we have a member of our own family who knew Mom, Alei Shalom, very well. My mom, on most days, was a big fan of Nate. On other days, like everybody else, not so much. But those days were few, Reb Chaim Noson. And my father was thrilled, because he said, boy, he'll probably charge us a lot less than those other guys. Whether that's true or not, we'll find out. But it was a wonderful idea to have a family member, someone who's known in the community, who has worked for many years in Torah and Masorah, has traveled literally the globe with famous people, with not famous people, Rush Limbaugh. I think he was once in my bedroom that I grew up in with Paul Westphal, the former coach of the Phoenix Suns, because my father was showing them my posters, my Avodah Zarah posters of Paul Westphal on the walls of my bedroom. So a lot of you are familiar with Rabbi Segal. He will not let any of you sleep in this room tonight. So if you're tired, you will be not tired in just a few minutes. Without further ado, it's my pleasure, my zchus, to introduce you to Rabbi Noson Segal.
Thank you very much. Shus Mergasha, Choshev Rabbonim. Needless to say, it is a great honor for me to have been asked by the family to speak tonight. It is a very difficult task. On Shabbos, one of my sons said to me, "Are you prepared?" And I said, "How could you prepare for Aunt Pearl?" And he said, "It's not a joke. She was a very special woman." And I hope in some small way I could share with you her greatness and the legacy that she left over. After the sin of the spies, the Almighty was very disappointed with the Jewish people. The pasuk, the verse in Chumash tells us, "Akenu badever vorishenu, ve'aseh schol goy gadol v'atzum mimenu." Hashem says, "I will smite the Jewish people with a plague. I will annihilate them. And I shall make you, Moses, a greater and more powerful nation than they are." And Moshe Rabbeinu wanted HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty, to forgive the Jewish people. So he tried two different approaches to convince Hashem to forgive us, the Jewish people. The first approach was simple. It was logic. He said, "Listen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you wipe out the Jewish people, it's going to be a tremendous chil Hashem, a tremendous desecration of God's name. You promised you would take us from Egypt and bring us into Israel, to the land of Israel. Here you're going to wipe us out. All the nations are going to say he didn't have the power to do it. They're going to say he wasn't able to live up to what he promised." The second approach was a much more reliable approach. He did what the Almighty told him to do after the sin of the golden calf. He said, "You want me to forgive them? So what you have to do is invoke the Midas Harachim, the 13 attributes of mercy. If you do that, I will forgive you." So which approach did the Almighty accept? The logical argument about the desecration of the name, or the invoking of the Midas Harachim? So if you look in the Chumash tells you, "Vayomer Hashem, salachti kidvarecha." Hashem says, "I have forgiven because of your words, Moses." Rashi says, very simply, it was the first approach. Hashem understood that it would be a desecration of his name. It would be demeaning of God's name. So he accepted that argument and he forgave the Jewish people. All of a sudden, the Torah gives us a next pasuk, which I really don't understand what it's doing there. The Torah says, "V'ulam chayoni yamlech v'ed Hashem es kol haaretz." But as I live, the glory of God shall fill the entire world. We're talking about survival, forgiving us, taking us to Israel, and all of a sudden the next verse says that God's glory is going to fill the entire world. What does this pasuk, what does this verse have to do with the narrative of the Torah at that time? So the Netziv answers with another question. The Netziv says, David HaMelech devoted the entire Psalm 106, Kapitel Kuf Vav, to the story of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, and the travels of the Jewish people in the desert. What does he say? He says, Vayisa Yodoy Lehem Lahapil Oisam Bamidbar. He lifted up his hand in an oath, referring to the Almighty, against them, against the children of Israel, to throw them down in the wilderness, to get rid of us. And then the next pasuk, David HaMelech writes, Lahapil Zarim Bagoyim Ozoroisam Baratzos. To throw down their descendants among all the nations in the land, and to scatter the Jewish people among all the lands in the four corners of the earth. So the first pasuk is a simple pasuk. Hashem raised his hand to strike us down in the midbar, in the wilderness. No problem. But what does the second pasuk mean? To cast down their descendants among the nation and to scatter us in the four corners of the earth? At that time, we weren't being scattered anywhere. We were heading to Eretz Yisrael. We were heading to the land of Israel. So where does David HaMelech find an allusion to an event that is not part of the narrative of the Torah? So the Netziv answers, even though the Almighty forgave the children of Israel for the sin of the spies, the evil report about the land of Israel, the future of the Jewish people would never be the same. It was going to be completely different. You see, we as Jews have a mission in this world. Our mission is to spread the name of the Almighty until every human being recognizes Hashem as the one and only God. That's our mission in the world, to create a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name. And what do we say on Rosh Hashanah in a few days? Let everything that has been molded understand that you, God, are the molder, and let everything with a life's breath in its nostrils proclaim Hashem, the God of Israel, and his king, and his kingship rules over everything. What was God's original plan? God's original plan was that Moshe Rabbeinu should lead us into Israel. He would build the Beis HaMikdash. That Beis HaMikdash would never be destroyed. And our mission of sanctifying the name of God, of being Mekadosh Shem Shemayim, would emanate from Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. That's where everything would come from the land of Israel. After the incident of the spies, things changed. Hashem said that no longer will the being Mekadosh Shem Shemayim, the sanctifying God's name, only emanate from the land of Israel. You see, what's going to happen is there's going to be a period called Golus, exile, which we live in today for a couple of thousand years. And the Jews would be dispersed throughout the world. And we would create a Kiddush Hashem wherever we are. It wouldn't just come from Israel. It would come from wherever Jews are. And that's what we thought was a misplaced pasuk. That was the purpose of the pasuk. After the spies, V'ulam chayani yamalech v'od Hashem es kol haaretz. The glory of Hashem shall fill the entire world, because no longer will everything come from Israel, from Eretz Yisrael, from the land of Israel. It will come from everywhere, the four corners of the earth, where we, the Jewish people, will be dispersed. Our mission of spreading the name of God, of sanctifying the name of God, would come from Bavel, Spain, Morocco, France, Germany, Africa, Hungary, the United States, Phoenix, Arizona. That became our mission. Everywhere in the world that we live, our job is to show the world the greatness of God, that God is the one and only King of the world. What exactly does it mean to sanctify the name of the Almighty? Pasuk says, "V'nigdashti b'sayf b'nei Yisrael," and the Gemara tells us, what is the primary privilege and responsibility of every Jew, great or small? It is to sanctify God's name through his behavior, whether you're among Jews or Gentiles. How do you do that? You learn Torah. You perform mitzvahs. You treat other people kindly, considerately, honestly. Our mission in life is to raise the consciousness of everyone in recognizing the greatness of God. That is our job. So now you could ask yourself the question, why is this so important? Why is making a Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying the name of God in the United States of America, what's so important about it? Why do we have to take it very seriously and incorporate it into our lifestyle? And the answer is very simple, unfortunately. We live in a country where the Almighty is on the defensive. There is a tremendous rise in atheism in this country. We have taken the laws that God gave us thousands of years ago and we have removed them. We legislate sin now very easily. We have a country where there are so few values, so few morals, so few standards. And you know what that has done? It has ripped the Jewish people apart. Because of this, our people are suffering greatly. Let me explain to you maybe how that happens. In the story of the flood, so Noah had the ark, and the animals went into the ark. What was Noah's job in the ark? It was very simple. Feed the animals, clean the animals, take care of the garbage, do everything you have to do. We are told that one time Noah was late for one meal. What happened? He was punished. How is he punished? The lion bit him. So you say to yourself, he was late for one meal in a whole year? If my wife was late for one meal in a whole year, I don't think I'd be so upset. So the lion punishes him by biting him? So the commentaries say, you know why? Because that was the last lion. If that lion didn't live, there'd be no more lions. The history of the lions would be over. And when it comes to the last lion, we are demanded to treat the last lion with the highest level of love, compassion, concern, goodness that we could muster up. It's not enough to treat the lion with an A. It has to be an A+, because if we fail, there are no more lions. That's the end of the history of the lions. My dear friends, in the United States of America, we have millions of last lions. Millions of our brothers and sisters who have left us already and are leaving us already because of the great disease called assimilation. It's very simple. In 1940, how many Jews were there in the United States of America? So they tell us it was 6 million. So what is it, 77 years later? So just the natural birth rate alone, nothing else. There should be 20 million. It's probably a lot more, by the way, but let's say 20 million. How many Jews are in America today? Less than 6 million. So what happened? What happened to those 14, 15 million Jews? I promise you they didn't make Aliyah. So where are they? They disappeared. They disappeared into the disease called assimilation. Those are our brothers and sisters. Those are our family. We lost more Jews in the United States of America than we did in all of Europe since 1940. And we're as quiet as they say they were in Europe about it. What happened to these brothers and sisters? It's a very simple thing. The pasuk tells us, "Vayichan sham Yisrael neged ahar." The children of Israel stood facing Mount Sinai. It was one of the great moments in the history of the world. Ish echad b'lev echad. We stood there as one together, facing Har Sinai. But Rav Hutner says there was another great thing that happened at that time. What was it? Not only did we stand together facing the mountain, our back was to society. We turned away from society. Society had no effect on us because we were all looking at Mount Sinai. Because society is the greatest evil to the Jewish people. It causes us more problems than anything else. My father used to say Jews are much better being persecuted than they are in freedom. They're much better Jews in persecution. So what happened? We stood by the mountain, and slowly society enticed us. And first we turned away a little bit, then we turned away a little more, and then a little more, and some turned all the way around until their backs were to Har Sinai, and they were facing so totally society, and they disappeared. Millions and millions of our brothers and sisters. And there are still millions of them across this fruity plain that are falling into that disease as well. Our responsibility is to bring them back, is to bring them home. So how do you do it? What's the answer? First answer is very simple. Jewish education. If there's no Jewish education, there's no hope in the future. Our greatest weapon is Jewish education. We have to do everything we can to put children in schools and yeshivas, to give them an education. And it may be tremendously difficult, tremendous self-sacrifice, but it has to be done. Because statistics show the deeper you go in Jewish education, the stronger your Jewish identity is for life. But unfortunately, not everybody's going to go. So what's the second thing that we can do? The second thing is they call it kiruv. You know, go be makarev of another Jew. It's a wonderful thing. It really is. But let's be honest. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody feels excited about it. So there are those that do it, and Baruch Hashem, they bring back brothers and sisters back to Mount Sinai. But then there's a third way to do it, that every one of us could succeed. And it's very simple. We have to live the life of Kiddush Hashem. We have to live a life where we sanctify the name of the Almighty. We don't have to talk to anybody, but from our actions, our honesty, our decency, our consideration, our carefulness, our sensitivities, our manners, people say, look at the Jew. Look how wonderful they live their life. They understand the difference between kodesh l'chayr, between holiness and the mundane. Somehow there's a difference between or l'chosha, between the light of the Torah, the light of a Jewish life, and the darkness of a life devoid of Torah. That's all you have to do. We live the way we are supposed to live, and we affect our brothers and sisters. So there's always a cynic in the crowd who's sitting there saying, this guy's nuts. Because nobody would listen to anything I do or say or whatever. But I'm going to tell you how it works. Because I know somebody who did it. And that person that did it was Pearl Bas Ravitz. This is my Aunt Pearl. My Aunt Pearl moved here with her wonderful husband, Uncle Zalman Zolzaiger Zintzheim, 50 years ago. 50. Rabbi and Rebbetzin Rabibo were here already. That's why they were able to move, because she started a day school. Jewish education was the most important thing. Who was here 50 years ago? There was no mikveh in town. There was no minyan. Shabbos morning, my uncle told me he walked 4 miles to a shul downtown, which had a mikveh Shabbos, which had a minyan Shabbos morning, even in the heat. Kosher food was whatever Uncle Zalman and Aunt Pearl made in the store, I guess. What was here? There was nothing. I was here 40 years ago, my first time. I said to Uncle Zalman when I came back, I said, I saw a yarmulke in the street. He said, you ain't going to see many of them here in Phoenix. So they moved in. And they had 5 children under the age of 13, I believe. 5 children. What odds would you have given me 50 years ago that Zalman and Pearl Segal's children would all be Shomer Shabbos, observant, with children and grandchildren that follow in the traditions of Zalman and Pearl Segal? What would the odds have been? Not great. So what did they do? You think they were loud and hear of? No. And Pearl was loud, but not so loud. You know what they did? They lived the life of Kiddush Hashem. And Pearl got involved in the PTA. She got involved in the sisterhood. She got involved in any good thing to help the Jewish people in this town. And Pearl did chesed at the highest of levels. Chesed to people she didn't know. Chesed quietly, secretly. Chesed publicly. Our house, Hachnas Asarch, at an unbelievable level. How many people heard Kiddush for the first time in Zalman and Pearl Segal's house? How many people benched for the first time in Zalman and Pearl Segal's house? How many people experienced a Yontif for the first time, or a Shabbos for the first time, in the house of Pearl and Zalman Segal? You know how Pearl Segal led her life? No compromise. No compromise on Shabbos. No compromise on kashrus. No compromise on values, standards, and morals that kept the Jewish people alive for thousands of years. That's the life that Pearl Segal led. And you know what happened? What happened is she raised a family that, to pay tribute to her, says there has to be Torah learned. There has to be Torah. She raised a family that gave nachas not only to them, but to all of Klal Yisrael. That's what they did. And that's what we can do if we just live our life on Kiddush Hashem. I'll explain it to you a little better. There was a man, he davens today in the Beis Medrash HaGodol in Petach Tikva. He was a man that, at the age of 9, his father knew that it wouldn't work. He was in Austria, so he sent him to Germany. From Germany, he was put on the kinder transport to England, and then he was sent to Palestine. Ended up in Petach Tikva, and him and his new wife raised the most beautiful, wonderful children that a person could raise. Talmidei Chachamim, Erech Yidden, in every sense of the word. So somebody said to him, I don't understand. I don't understand. You had no parents. You have no siblings. You had nobody. How did you have the strength to raise such wonderful children? So he says, I'll tell you. When I was 9 years old, my father knew there was no future. So he was sending me from Austria to Germany, where I would go on the kinder transport. He said we went to the train station. We knew that this would be the last time that we would ever see each other. Very little conversation. What could you say? And then the train pulled in. And my father faced me, hugged me and kissed me. And he said, Sei a guter Yid. Be a good Jew. And he put me on the train by the window. He stood outside the window and he said, Sei a guter Yid. Be a good Jew. And the train started to move very slow. And he walked next to the window and he said, Sei a guter Yid. The train picked up a little speed and he started to run. And he said, Sei a guter Yid. And as the train started to go a little faster, I saw my father running, and he fell on all fours. And the last thing I heard him yell was, Sei a guter Yid. Be a good Jew. He says, if that is the message that I was given by my father, less than 5 words, no matter how much problems I faced, how could I not fulfill the message that he gave me? My dear Aunt Pearl, my dear Uncle Zalman should live and be well. Rav, the Rebbitzin, and I don't want to say names, and the handful of people who were there 50 years ago. You know what they did? They went to Camelback Mountain. I think it's the highest place in town. And they stood up there and they yelled, Sei a guter Yid. Sei a guter Yid. To those that didn't send their kids to yeshiva, to those that didn't keep Shabbos, to those that didn't understand the difference between a mikveh and no mikveh, to those that didn't understand kashrus. Sei a guter Yid! Sei a guter Yid! Be a good Jew! Don't do as I say. Just look at us. Look at our simcha. Look at our nachas from our children. Look what it means, the difference between our lechoshech, between the brightness of Torah and the darkness of the world we live in. Ah! Sei a guter Yid! You know what happened? They took not only a physical desert, they took, as the Rav said, a spiritual desert, and they turned it into a makom Torah. They turned it into a place of Torah, where David gets up and spends 10 minutes just thanking all the rabbis that came in this town. It's unbelievable. Yeshivas and schools and places to eat and this and that. And I drove past the new mikveh in Mirz Hashem that should be open soon. It's unbelievable. 50 years ago, would they have believed it? A handful of kids in the school. Azam makom Torah. You know why? Because they fulfilled their mission in life. They made a Kiddush Hashem emanating from Phoenix, Arizona. And brothers and sisters woke up and they came home and they turned away from society and they started to face Har Sinai. I want to end with one last story, which I've told over 1,000,000 times and I'm going to tell it again. Kloisenberger Rebbe, he lost his wife and 11 children in the war. He was in 3 camps. He was shot. He was beaten close to death many times. In fact, they say that the first Yom Kippur after the war, he was in a DP camp. And that DP camp got a very prominent visitor. In fact, he said that you should bake him challahs. Challahs are a very prominent gift for non-Jews. The visitor was General Dwight David Eisenhower, the head of Allied forces in Europe, future president of the United States. And they asked the Kloisenberger to speak, and he gets up, and the interpreter was Lieutenant Birnbaum, who died a few years ago in Yerushalayim. And he says, first of all, General Eisenhower, thank you for being the shliach, the messenger, in liberating us. And second of all, please look out and never forget what you see here, because the day is going to come when they're going to deny it happened. That day has come. And General Eisenhower instructed his troops to take thousands and thousands of pictures so it would never be forgotten. General Eisenhower was very much taken by the Kloisenberger Rebbe. They became very close friends later on in the United States when the general was president. So General Eisenhower tells Lieutenant Birnbaum, tell the rabbi that I will do for him whatever he wants me to do for him. Forget about everybody. Whatever he wants, I'll do for him. Imagine, the most powerful man in Europe. He could ask, let me go to a hotel room and take a decent shower. Let me change the clothes I wore for 4 years. Fly me to Israel. Fly me to Brooklyn. Give me a good meal. So you know what he says? He says, General, in a few days it's going to be Sukkot. We have to serve the Almighty. Could you find us a lulav and an esrog? General Eisenhower sent a military plane to Rome and brought back lulavim and esrog. Kloisenberger finally came to the United States of America. And Reb Shraga Feivel Mendelovich from Torah, he took him to meet one of the great Askanim, one of the great philanthropists of the generation, Sam Feuerstein. He takes him to Mr. Feuerstein's office. Imagine this beaten, battered Jew. If he was 40, he looked 70. Can't imagine what he looked like. And he walks into Mr. Feuerstein. He says, Mr. Feuerstein, I want to build a yeshiva, I want to build a Beis Yaakov, I want to build a Bikur Cholim, a hospital, a this. And by the way, he built every single one of them in his lifetime. But imagine what Mr. Feuerstein thinks of him. So Mr. Feuerstein looks at him and says, Rabbi, I will do the best that I can to help you. So the Kloisenberger looks at him and says, Mr. Feuerstein, just one more thing. Before the war, I was the most prestigious man in town. I was the Rav. I didn't know if I can carry my talis and tefillin 2 blocks. They wouldn't let me. I was the Rav. I didn't know if I could walk 4 blocks. They wouldn't let me. They would take me. I was the Rav. But then the war broke out. And I found out not only could I carry talis and tefillin, but I can carry well over 50 pounds of cement on my back, not just for 4 blocks, but for well over 4 miles. He says, Mr. Feuerstein, I am not sure you have yet experienced what it means to do the best that you can. And that's the message that Aunt Pearl gives you all tonight. Aunt Pearl didn't do the best that she could, but believe me, she tried. She tried. And she succeeded in so many ways. All of us. Look what you've built. It's a wonderful place. It really is a wonderful place. But there's still things you don't have. There's still things that you haven't done. There's still Jews not sitting in shuls. There's still Jews not saying Kiddush. There's still Jews that don't know the Aleph from a base. They don't know that. But you have the ability to change that by doing a little better, by sanctifying God's name just a little bit more. If all of you just put in a little more effort, how much more success you would have. How many more people would hear that cry? Sei a gute Yid. Be a good Jew. May the Almighty bless all of you, that you should keep following in the footsteps of those pioneers and continue to sanctify the name of the Almighty. May you all be blessed, that we should see the Geula Shlema B'Meira. Amen. Amen.
Please join us in the back for some cake and some fruit, candy, and drinks. Say a bracha. It's close to Eloi Nishmas, our mother, Paralekta Bas Reb Yitzchak. Thank you all very much for coming. And on behalf of my father, my sisters, and our entire family, we wish everyone a ksiva v'chsima tova, a good healthy new year.
So you were on the